Hello and welcome to another Tech Campus Coffee Live webinar. This is an opportunity for you to learn about career paths at Tech directly from professionals in your field.
We'll be speaking to technical representatives from a variety of fields at Tech, and they'll share why they enjoy what they do.
Participants also have a chance to directly ask speakers and recruiters questions and get a good understanding of why Tech is a great place to work, as well as where your strengths, talents, and learning opportunities lie.
I'll start with you. Could you give us a little bit of an intro of who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Anderson is my name, obviously, and I'm the manager of Tailings Mine Waste here in the sustainability group at Tech. I've been in the mining industry for almost 25 years. And I started off as a graduate from UBC, from the Geological Engineering Department, which is where a lot of folks in the mining industry come from. But then also did my master's in civil geotech there. I started my career, spent about 15 years in consulting, primarily doing mining projects, but also doing residential and commercial projects in and around Vancouver, the Okanagan Valley, and here in British Columbia. As well as mining projects in South America and up in the Northwest Territories. I've now been with Tech about 9 years and moved through a number of different roles. The first one was in the project development group, working on some of our greenfields and brownfields projects, looking at some of the expansions and some of the new projects that we undertake. Then I spent about 5 years up at the Highland Valley Copper Mine, managing the tailings facility there. Leading the construction and engineering teams, overseeing all sort of the whole range of engineering, construction, operation, and maintenance of the facility. And now in the sustainability group, the focus has shifted a little bit more to environmental, social governance types of issues. I oversee the tailings governance program, and that has a lot of connections to the sustainability initiatives that we have, and a lot of our ESG ratings and rankings in the industry. One of the big focuses right now is implementation of the new global standard for tailings management that came out about 2 years ago, an initiative from the UN Environment Program, the Principles for Responsible Investment, as well as the International Council of Mining and Minerals. And that really is a step change in the industry that brings a lot more focus to safely managing tailings facilities to avoid some of the disasters that we've seen in past years. And brings a lot of opportunities and new avenues to explore in terms of use of technology and things like drones and satellite monitoring and such. So it's a very innovative and rapidly changing area of the business right now. Over to you, Jen.
Yeah, over to you, Jen. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm Jen Goodale. I'm a geotechnical engineering training at Elkview Operations. So I also graduated from UBC in geological engineering in 2017. Then I worked for a drilling contractor for a couple of years before getting the job at Tech. So I moved over to Tech in 2019, and I worked on the Fording River expansion project for 8 months. And then I moved over to the Fording River operation, and then recently came over to Elkview. My kind of day-to-day responsibilities, I plan and manage a lot of drilling programs. I take that data, I run statistical analysis on it, and I bring it into our database and update our geotech model. And then I use this to run a variety of geotech assessments for our pit walls and spoils. And then I do field checks to verify the assumptions that we made in those analyses, and make kind of like short range recommendations for kind of like the day-to-day operation. So if we overdig a wall and now we're left without our catch bench, or say we have like structure that we didn't initially anticipate. So so involved in both the short term and the long range design and investigations.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, you guys, for the great summary. Perfect. Well, maybe a good place for us to start. You've both sort of highlighted a couple of really interesting points that I wanted to circle back on, and one of them, Chris, I guess you talked a little bit about the technology, and obviously technology is such a big part of the future of tech. And like you talked about when you were mentioning tailings and the changes that are happening there. Um, I guess what gets you excited in terms of technology that we're implementing and working on for the future for tech? What kind of things get you excited? What are sort of the new technologies that are going to be something that students or EITs would be potentially getting exposure to over the next couple of years?
Oh, great question. And it runs the whole range of technologies that are out there. Is we have a program called Race 21 that some of the some students might be aware of already, and it's really about transforming the business and integrating this digital transformation that we're seeing elsewhere. Cloud computing, big data. It's taking all the information from either our haul trucks or our mills, or in our case, from our geotechnical instrumentation at our tailings facilities, and actually starting to look at that data in a different way, not just looking at XY plots of instrument readings. It's actually starting to use machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and data science to actually start to look at the data in new ways. So that brings with it a lot of opportunities there, a lot of exploration in terms of how we use that data. But then also on the data collection side, it's looking at new technologies like drones and satellites and real-time data acquisition systems, autonomous boats, autonomous drones. Once we have the licensing to be able to do that, it's going to be an exciting future. It's taking things to that next level of using data in a much more rich way.
Yeah, for sure. No, and you're seeing that across the business, like you said, in many different areas. And Jen, do you want to add to that? I guess in terms of your day to day, what kind of stuff are you seeing daily that you think would be kind of interesting? Or I guess if, as a co-op student, for example, what kind of technologies are they going to get their hands on?
Yeah, a lot of the same as what Chris talked about with the automation of monitoring systems and the drones.
Yep.
Like something we've had a lot of success with recently is using drones for high wall mapping or photogrammetry, where we can actually take the drone scan and pick out like joint sets and bedding or fault structures right from that scan. And it's something that a lot of our co-op students have come to tech, and right away they've gotten their drone license, and we have them out taking these drone flights. And I think a lot of them have really enjoyed that. Another thing is Power BI. That was something that I just kind of got to self-teach myself for a few months, and actually develop a Power BI report. And if anyone's not familiar with Power BI, it's kind of like a really fancy Excel, and it's quite like visual, where you can like just with a few clicks you can start to like visualize like the trends of your data. So I found it really helpful in after collecting drilling data and investigation data. Then you can start to compare it not only between our different pit scenarios on site, but also across the Elk Valley. So I can compare the forwarding data to the Elkview data and see if our sandstones have the same similar rock strength and statistical distribution. So Power BI became a very powerful tool for that. I really enjoyed learning how to use it.
That's awesome. No, and we're definitely, that's something that comes up quite a bit, I find, is Power BI. That people have been using that a lot in lots of different ways to like just visualize data and be able to show, like, put it in a report and be like, this is what's happening and this is how you manipulate, like it's just been really useful, powerful tool for a lot of teams. So that's awesome that you guys are using it as well. Great. And you guys can both speak to this, but maybe I'll start with you, Jen, because I know that you have, well, yes, you both have students right now, but as a co-op student coming in, and I think the answer is going to be quite different for both of you, but I guess what sort of skills should they be coming to the table with? So obviously they're probably coming from a geotechnical engineering program. potentially a third year, say, for example. But I guess, are there any skills, like, you mentioned Power BI, you mentioned some of this drone work that they could maybe get exposure. Is there any skills that they should come to the table with, I guess, or maybe a better way to put it is, what would make a successful co-op student for your team?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
Jen,
like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I think a lot of the like technical skills we can teach on the job. So it's okay if you don't have the knowledge beforehand. And I find like what makes a really successful co-op is they come they start their work term and we kind of give them a project that they're interested in, and then they have that to work on throughout their whole co-op term. And in the background, we'll kind of like pull them into a variety of other tasks, which helps like expose them to all sorts of parts of the operation. So like we've had one co-op who was actually a geology co-op, and he was really passionate about field mapping. So he took on this initiative to do a bunch of field mapping of our outcrops and develop our model that way. And then I know another co-op has been involved in like a wave run out assessment or like a big terrain hazard assessment. So really whatever is they're interested in, we can kind of develop a project to suit those skills. And yeah, if there was like some other like technical skill prerequisites, it's always useful to have some knowledge of software. Like Excel is really useful. We use Mindsight, but I think it's a little bit transferable from AutoCAD. So any experience with software like that, but really just being keen and willing to take on kind of whatever we throw at you goes a long way, and we'll make a really successful co-op. Yeah.
Awesome. How about for you, Chris? Did you want to comment on that? What makes a successful co-op student?
Yeah, absolutely. And corporately, things are obviously operate a little bit differently than at the operation. So at the operation, it is a lot more technically focused and a lot more, say, traditional analysis and say design or geotechnical type of engineering. At the corporate level, a lot more of what we do is around developing the standards or communicating a lot of the work that gets done at the site level externally, either reporting things through our channels for ESG reporting, developing our sustainability report, or getting that information ready for disclosure. So a big piece of what I look for are those communication skills, both in terms of verbal as well as written, being able to take complex information and summarize that into a concise, clear message. That's a skill that takes time to develop. So I don't necessarily expect a co-op student to come straight in with that, but that's part of what we focus on is learning those writing and information transformation type of skills is taking complex information into a clear, concise message. And the other piece is just eagerness to learn. Like Jen said, is we can teach most things on site. We don't expect our co-op students to be superstars and have detailed Excel or Power BI programming skills straight out of school. We have a lot of resources internally to be able to teach that and teach it sort of on the job as we're developing reports or such. So it's more just the eagerness and willingness to put in the time and effort to learn. More of a mindset than a skill per se.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I see that across the various disciplines, and if they got the right attitude, people are going to do well. And we've got a really well established program here too, where people are used to having co-op students. They know what it means to foster their growth and support them. And people have a really great experience. So that's always nice. So appreciate you guys also supporting co-op students through it, because that's obviously a bit of a passion of mine.
We got an interesting, so we know what it's like.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. And we got an interesting question here, which I'm not really sure how to approach, but maybe Chris, you could give us some insight. Would Tech ever sign a contract with Tesla in the coming future? I don't know if we have a crystal ball.
I mean,
how we would
I don't have a direct line of sight on that. I mean, great question, and I mean, we know that a lot of the car makers are looking for supply chain deals to get some supply chain certainty in very uncertain times. We do have a a strategic sourcing group within our procurement group that looks at those sorts of arrangements. I have no idea what they're working on. I don't find out about those things until all of you do. But because we do have operations in different, obviously all the way from Alaska down to Chile and the Atacama Desert, we do have strategic sourcing contracts with, say, Caterpillar for Hull tires, or from some of our suppliers, and then we also sell our products to either to our buyers, and again, I have no idea who exactly they are, but same idea is that I'm sure that group is working on various contracts with a whole range of individuals.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you for that. Put you on the spot with a Tesla question. I know, I was like, it's very, very specific. I guess I can comment to that too, that I don't know what the deal is with Tesla, but yeah, certainly we do look at electric vehicles as well for our haul trucks, not haul trucks, sorry, but our pit trucks. So our pool vehicles that we use within the pits, we've been looking at potentially looking into electrification of some of our pool vehicles, and to reduce our greenhouse gases, all those other things that come along with that. So there's lots of different projects happening from a sustainability standpoint, and ways that we can sort of reduce our footprint along the way. So I can speak to that part of it. I don't know if it's necessary with Tesla or not. Awesome. Okay, there's a couple other questions popping in here. Some people have asked about co-op positions based out of Vancouver, which included occasional mine site visits or field work. So sorry, Jen, I will get you to talk, but I'll throw this over to Chris just because he's in the corporate office. I guess, Chris, would a student get down to operations from your office usually, or how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I do try to get each of my students at least to Highland Valley Copper. It's only a 3-hour drive away, or 3.5-hour drive away. So that one's really easy, especially in the summertime, and quite a nice drive at that. Yeah. It's a nice place to visit. So that's the easy one. But we also look at opportunities to Red Dog's a little bit harder just because it's a fly-in, fly-out camp, and so that's a little, just logistically it's more challenging. But again, out to the Elk Valley, we've gotten people out there as well. South America becomes a little bit more tricky again. What I haven't mentioned is we also have a large legacy portfolio. So we have a number of tailings facilities that are in closure or working towards closure, and we have a number of those in Alberta, Quebec, northern BC, northern Alberta, Northwest Territories. So there's other locations that we can. There are opportunities to get to as well. And I see in the chat there's a question about South America.
Sorry, I'm just going to get someone to just put their mute on. There we go. All right. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
And for the southern operations, there's kind of a separate Spanish language job career site. So if people are fluent in Spanish, encourage them to definitely go to that site and look for opportunities. Obviously, there's a few more hurdles in terms of immigration and such, so I'm not sure how easily that's accomplished. But there definitely are postings for students in South America as well.
Yeah, 2 points to add as well. So we also have roles, many other types of roles all over the business, and as well as the Vancouver head office. I know many co-op students, whether it's environmental or other disciplines, that have gotten to site as well. Even the students in HR, I sent 2 students out to Elkview. So yeah, lots of opportunities for students to get to sites, and one of the goals is for futures to get every student to see an operation. I think there's a lot of, we have that opportunity now that we're sort of getting out of the pandemic, is more opportunity to get more tours. And then as for Chile, yeah, our team has grown, and we're looking to build on so in Canada, we have a very robust student program, full tech student experience, and we're looking to expand that into Chile. So some exciting things for 2023, but we're not quite sure exactly how that's going to look and feel. But yeah, lots of things in the works.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, and somebody here has asked a little bit about, is there an office in Calgary? There is certainly an office in Calgary. And I guess what I would speak to from the corporate positions, I guess we are a mining company. The bulk of our co-op opportunities, similar to what everyone said though, but they are based at the operations. And so there's going to be a few at corporate, there's going to be a few in different offices, but the bulk of them are going to get you to those operations and really get you those boots on the ground experience out there, which I think is so valuable as a student to really have that exposure to say, okay, yeah, I did work at a mine site. I know what this looks like. I know the ins and outs of how we're, doing some of these testing. Like it's so valuable. So there's certainly great opportunities across the board, but I know the bulk of them end up being at operations, and it's for that reason alone, is really just to get you some exposure and really understand what it means to work at a mine site and some of the challenges that we're faced in a day-to-day production environment. So anyway, just a little bit about that. I can talk a little bit more about like job application, all that stuff. So I will get to that towards the end and talk a little bit about opportunities that we have. And so I guess, there's a few specific questions about recruitment, but I guess I'm kind of curious, Jen, maybe you could speak to this. If you could think of either, I guess I'm curious as to how you ended up in like working at a mine site. There are corporate roles. You used to work for like a drilling contractor back in the day. I guess what brought you to tech and brought you, like, this is where you sort of laid your hat, if you will.
Yeah, I guess what really brought me here was probably just living in the Elk Valley. I think it's such a great place to live. And the activities are endless. The community is amazing. So it's really just, I love living in Fernie. So I think that was probably most of the attraction, but also the on-site, like Stacey said, the on-site experience is so valuable to actually work at a mining operation. It's so dynamic. You learn like a lot that you just didn't even know that was even out there until you're here on site. And then also the schedule. It's the staff schedule at Tech is an EDO schedule, so you work 9-hour days and get every other Friday off. I know there's a few different shifts, so it's not necessarily that for everyone, but I thought that was a very attractive schedule, so that also was part of it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, Jen is like the poster child for the lifestyle around here. You should see that girl on a mountain bike.
Thanks, Stacey.
Awesome. And obviously on the soccer pitch, right? Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And then someone's asked, are most of the operations open pit? And yes, they are in Canada, especially, and I think in Chile and Peru as well. I think their majority are open pit as well. So, we used to have a small percentage of our business that used to be underground, and that one's since moved into care and maintenance. So the bulk of the opportunities are open pit mines. And some interesting, challenging, and that's something that people have often said to me too. And I guess we take it for granted working for Tech for so long. But I've heard the saying that if you could plan a pit in Tech, you could plan it anywhere, because we're mountaintop mining. It's just some unique challenges that we're faced with here, and it really is a great place to learn, because you're not going to see this sort of environment everywhere you go, and it's really quite challenging and interesting, and it's a great learning experience for people for sure. Okay, and then I guess, usually I try and have a co-op student online. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have one today, but I guess, Jen, while we're chatting a little bit about the experience there, can you think of, co-op students that work for you? What sort of projects do they get to work on? Or I guess if you could think of like a specific project that a co-op really took by the horns and sort of really did well, and can you think of something that you could share with the team?
Yeah, I mentioned the field mapping project, which was like, I think he really enjoyed that. That added a lot of value. Some other things were, and I think you would have seen it in the video, the helicopter flying away, and you could see Ryan with the drone above him. So we always have them in the co-ops involved in those heli prism installs, it's pretty fun couple of days. And then the drone scans as well. Another project was Ryan took on a whip frag analysis. So he went and took photos of our spoils and was characterizing like how big the rocks were, and we used this to build the spec for our rock drain. So that was Ryan he ended up actually like self-teaching himself that software, and just like really taking that project a long way, which was quite valuable. We also have had co-ops work on our monitoring system, so they'll do kind of this full overhaul of automation, making sure everything is kind of like the naming convention and tying our monitoring plans and our alarms to those monitors. So that's like our GPSs, our radar, wireline monitors. We also have piezometers on site, which monitor your water levels. So yeah, those are
And so
some
co-ops
examples
got
of
to touch
projects.
all that stuff. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's super fun for a co-op student. Great. Sorry, Masaki, I might lean on you just make sure I'm not missing any questions here. I know there's a few in there. I'll deal with the recruitment ones after perhaps, but if you could draw some attention to any ones that I'm missing.
Yeah, many of them are recruitment.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I keep seeing those, so I'm like, I make sure I'm not missing. I guess one question I have for Chris, there have been a lot of changes within tailings and different areas. I guess what makes you excited about the next couple of years? Like, where do you, in terms of where tech is going, the direction, like, I guess what gets you excited about working for tech for the next few years?
For me, I think there's a big focus on our project pipeline right now. So we have a number of projects that we've recently partnered with in order to help move them forward. So for example, in Minnesota, we recently partnered with a company called Polymet for a copper project there. We have a project in Peru called, I always get these two mixed up. Zafranal is in Peru, and then San Nicolas is in Mexico.
Okay.
And again, we've just recently partnered San Nicolas with Agnico Eagle, who has experience in the Mexican jurisdiction. So again, that accelerates our projects. So projects are in some ways similar to operations, where it's a lot closer to boots on the ground. There's a lot of working with consultants and working with the project teams to move that forward. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for some of these new projects coming online. But then also with the existing projects is implementing some of these new technologies. A lot of what Jen was describing in terms of the instrumentation and the drones. It's finding ways to use all that information in a cohesive way, so that we don't have just data points and have a drone image over here and an instrument reading over here. We actually start to look at ways to bring those together. So I think we're going to see a big change in how we manage and use our data. There'll be a lot less focus on the co-op students being out there taking the readings, and more focus on them managing and manipulating and analyzing the data.
Yeah, for sure. I know that's something that Misaki and I know have talked about in other sessions as well. It's, there's obviously the skill set of like having a great attitude and coming in wanting to learn, but we've certainly seen a shift over the past few years on sort of the requirements are a nice to have for co-ops, and a lot of it is like, hey, do you have a little bit of programming on the side? Do you understand some analytics? Like, it's just a skill set that's just becoming more and more in need and demand, and certainly it's like I say, it's not a deal breaker at this point, but I think when you look at the direction we're moving in as a company and as an industry, certainly those skill sets are going to be valuable moving forward. If you were like, what elective will I take? Maybe maybe think about something in that space, because it's certainly not gonna hurt for sure. Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay. I gotta just make sure. I know someone asked about a fly in, fly out. Yes, we do have a fly in, fly out. So that is our Red Dog operation that Chris had mentioned earlier. We do hire students up there on the occasion, but it's not a huge program there. Obviously, especially through COVID, we've really it's been increasingly challenging to get people up to that site and add more numbers, kind of thing. But now that things are calming down a little bit, there may be opportunity. I know that I have supported them in the past. They generally hire students from the US, just to give you a heads up, and only because it's an American site. So much easier, again, similar to what Chris had mentioned about the sites in Chile. Same with the States. It's getting the work visas and different things like that in place if you're not from the same country. So generally they recruit in the US, I guess, for those fly in, fly out operations. Now, that being said, as a tech employee, if you're a full-time, there might be potential to get up there on a secondment or something like that as a part of your experience here. So we're all one big company, and we certainly try and develop our employees at different operations. So there's opportunity to move around later once you're a full-time employee or once you get your PEng potentially, that there'll be some opportunities to move around within the company. Anything else I'm missing there, Masaki?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions about commodities, like for example, it would, in terms of other minerals, would Tech be interested in things like potash? I'm not sure if Jen or Chris have any insight on this.
Again, it's not directly in my field, but because I get involved in the project development group, we're pretty focused on copper and steelmaking coal at the moment. That really is the core of what we do. I suspect our business development group is always looking at other opportunities, but we also don't want to spread ourselves too thin in terms of that growth potential and maintaining that technical excellence that we have. We want to make sure that we kind of stay in our lane there.
Another question was about if I think a student worked in a zinc mine is interested in switching to copper mine. Would this be an easy transition? It could be a harder, maybe a harder question to answer.
I think in some ways it'll be pretty similar. I mean, if it's an open pit mine, then the geotechnical aspects will be similar. On the metallurgy side and process plant and process engineering, obviously that's going to be a different set of processes potentially. But I'm a geotech, not a metallurgist, so you don't want me speaking to flotation differences and differences in process plants because I have no clue. I mostly see them from the outside and a pipe of something coming at me, and that's about it. That's what I know of process plants.
I know, Chris, you just answered Thomas's question, but because it doesn't get recorded and sometimes students don't have access to the chat, I figure I'll just read it out for you. Are the majority of your drone mapping applications using photogrammetry, or their applications better suited for LiDAR or other technologies?
Yeah, and I know we have the capabilities for both and use both, but Jen might actually have more information on some of the drone technologies and sensors that we use.
Yeah, we definitely we use all sorts of different technologies and just kind of tailor them for the goal. So I know we do annual LiDAR scans, and the drone, like the photogrammetry, is more specific to a certain wall or structure that we're targeting. So whereas the LiDAR is kind of like larger scale topography. So yeah, it's really just targeted to whatever the goal is.
Awesome. So I guess after today's conversation, I want to answer some of the questions regarding recruitment as well. So I'll make sure I go through those, but I did want to encourage you that we do have, like I sort of alluded to and joked, that we're looking for Becky's resume as well. We have some opportunities for sure across the business that are coming up for January. So we're currently recruiting for January 2023. Right now, we're going to have over 75 at least positions across the business starting in January. So tons of opportunity. If anybody has a chance to put the link up, already for our geotechnical position specifically, you can certainly apply to that, or you can check the tech website as well. So it's tech.com/careers, and you can find any of the postings that are relevant to your discipline in case you're not in the geo field. Yeah, certainly there's pretty much something for everyone in our list of postings for this term. So we're actively recruiting right now, and so we're doing interviews, we're working through the process, and we're obviously on campus a bit as well. So we've got people at U of C today. We've got people going to U of A on Thursday. So that is starting to happen as well, which is very exciting for all of us to actually get back in person and see people on campus and be able to talk to you about our opportunities in person. So please feel free to keep an eye out for when Tech is on campus.
There's a couple of questions,
yeah.
Stacy, about the types of students. Do we hire PhDs? Do we hire graduates? Or are we just looking for undergrads?
A bit of everything. The bulk, I would say, are probably undergrad, but we certainly do hire master's students. We have, like Chris right now has a PhD student working for him. So certainly there's opportunities for, all across the board. It just depends on what the needs are of the hiring manager at the time. But
is a driver's license essential as a co-op student?
It's something that we definitely look for. It's I guess I'll never say never, but bulk of our positions do require a person to drive on site. So the majority of the roles, if you don't have a driver's license, you can still be considered for, but it'd just be a few less, like quite a few less positions in terms of that you don't need a driver's license. Mostly you do need it.
Akwasi is from Africa. Welcome, Akwasi. His question is there opportunities for a student to fly in from Africa to do a co-op work term?
We generally, I'm not sure your situation, whether you're going to a Canadian university, but yeah, no, we usually focus on students that are studying in Canada for our co-op opportunities. So lots of international students for sure, but they're studying in Canada in a Canadian university.
Jade's asked if copper and steelmaking coal is Tech's current focus. Can you guys speak to who are our biggest buyers?
Generally, I can certainly speak to that. Yeah, I mean, in terms of steelmaking coal, our major markets, I guess, that we're selling to are Japan, China, and then India as well is a big market for us. So that's where a lot of that is going. Copper, I'm not as familiar with just because I work for the coal business unit, but yeah, I can't get into specifics for sure, but we certainly sell to buyers all over the world. Any other ones that we're missing?
I think Ahmad was asking about who do you reach out to with his resume?
Perfect. Yeah. So I guess Ahmad, your best bet is just to apply online. Then we won't miss you. I don't want to be responsible for anyone's resume in case. Usually we have it in our applicant tracking system. So we want to keep track of it through there so that we can move you through the stages and make sure we don't lose track of anyone's application. So that's where I would encourage you to put your resume there. Now, that being said, I would highly recommend mentioning in your cover letter, or feel free to reach out to the group too, to just let us know that you attended the session. And that always just speaks volumes for us, because it shows that people really have a vested interest in the company and in opportunity. So don't hesitate to mention that you attended a campus coffee, and certainly that'll draw a little attention for me for sure.
I think I've hit almost all the questions.
Okay.
And well, Jessica did ask. I know Robert, you answered the question in the chat. Once again, I'll do it verbally just in case people can't see the chat. But Jessica's asking, do we ever hire students from for these geotechnical co-op positions from other disciplines such as chemical or metallurgy, etc.? I don't know, Robert, you want to unmute your mic and answer that, or if Stacey, you want to hit that?
Sure,
there's Robert.
Yeah. So I was a mining engineering student at UBC and got a co-op position at Tech, and I went to Coal Mountain about 6 or 7 years ago. And I came in and I joined the geotech team right away. So I spent 12 months doing geotech there. And I liked it so much that after I graduated, I spent about half of my EIT years doing geotech positions as well. So and even though I'm a mining engineering background, I enjoy geotech quite a bit.
Awesome, Robert. Thanks. Has it been that long since you were a co-op? My goodness.
Yeah, he was one of my students.
Yeah, I remember both of you.
Awesome. No, and that's exactly true. I have some positions right now this term that are for geotechnical space, but yeah, they're open to look at a mining engineer. They're open to look at maybe a process engineer as well. So there's certainly some possibility to work outside, like not be a geotechnical or geological engineering student and be able to work in this space.
Looks like Ali's got his hand up. Go ahead, Ali, unmute your mic.
Just a quick question. So you said you are physically present in U of C and U of A. I was wondering if you would be at UBC at some point.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Do you know when?
We have plans to be at UBC a couple times. What discipline are you?
I'm in geotech.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So we have plans. We've got a couple alumni, and so stay tuned. It's still in the works, but we'll have we're going to get a guest speaker in there. We've got a ton of alumni, and love to sort of show you some of the cool stuff we're doing.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we'll probably attend a bigger session, likely in January, I suspect, to Masaki at UBC is the plan.
Yeah, and I posted. We're also going to be if anybody's from U of A, I can post. We're also going to be in Edmonton on Thursday, and then we're going to be in Ontario in October. So stay tuned. You'll see everything on LinkedIn or Facebook. But yeah, and these are first time on campus in person in a couple of years. So it's a lot of fun, and we're providing good food and giving out great prizes. Any other questions? Well, apparently, Jen and Chris, you are extremely thorough. So just cognizant of time. So thank you for both and everybody else who supported Campus Coffee. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hoping you learned something new. Hoping maybe there's some interest in potentially working at Tech. As Stacy had mentioned, we've got a ton of opportunities. I encourage all of you, if you feel you're interested and qualified, to apply. And whether it's for January or May or September for co-ops or so anyways, apply. We got lots of opportunities and I don't see that changing in the future. Our mate has just posted a link to a form, a feedback form. And if you could spend 30 seconds, a minute to fill this thing out, it doesn't take long, but there's value in this. Our goal is to provide events like this or content that would be valuable to you. So if there's any other, other types of events or other types of people or guest speakers you'd like us to bring, we will, basically take this feedback and build Campus Coffee events in the future around that. So definitely encourage you to provide your feedback. And if it, doesn't show any value and people are saying that, then we shut it down. We do something different. So anyways, your feedback is much appreciated.
Someone just has their hand up. Do you want to grab that before we?
I think you have
a question.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I have a question. Like I applied for 3 positions, and like after applying, like within week or 2 weeks, I got email that this position is cancelled, and then I tried to check the position. It still shows on the website, but because I applied for like once, I cannot apply. So like I don't know what is the matter. I don't know, like is there any problem at your end, or like I just want to make sure it's the problem on my end.
Yeah,
and
no, that.
Graduate student, not undergraduate student.
Okay, so it was for a full-time position, was it, that you applied for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting that'd be canceled. Okay, well, I can look into it. How about I take a peek at your file and then I can reach out to you, Dimpy, after the fact and then give you some insight into where your application is.
Yeah, sure. My what I can say, my full name is Dimpy Kumari Patel. So like that is my legal name. Dimpy is just like I use it, so you can check the name.
Perfect. Okay, will do. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your interest. All right. I think, someone else have a question? Hi. Is it Asit Kumar?
Yes. Thank you for this session. Just wanted to ask about the adding to on the previous thing. Can we see our status whenever we apply for a job on the website? Will we be able to see our status like it is under consideration or it has been like processed completely? Because frankly speaking, I have applied for more than like around 21 jobs in tech within past 6 months, but I haven't heard from them. I definitely get mails, honestly. It's not that I don't, but it's very difficult to recognize when you apply for, because I'm into project management and I get to fit into a lot of roles when I apply for that. So, but whenever I check the website, I don't get the status. So I'm still not sure whether it's been there or it's been removed or like something like that. It's just about the status for the thing. So that yeah, that's the only thing I had. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think our applicant tracking system allows us to like provide status updates. So it's funny. Usually I talk about this during the sessions that it's I do ask for patience through the process. There's a lot of recruiters working in a lot of jobs. There's been a lot happening. So we try and get back to people as quickly as we can in terms of once the job is closed, or if you've been shortlisted, we would reach out for sure. But unfortunately, just because the sheer volume we're dealing with, it's hard for us to give status updates on like, you've been moved to pre-screen or shortlisted. Usually it's just if you make it to the final stages, then we'll reach out and let you know, like, you've been shortlisted kind of thing. So Yeah, unfortunately, our system doesn't allow us to do it quickly where we can send out like an update. So I know it feels sometimes it goes into no man's land, but it is but definitely lots happening right now from the recruiting standpoint.
Yeah, because I was looking forward, like from during my co-op, like I just completed my co-op, so I was just looking
Okay.
forward to join tech, but just wanted to know the status. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
I'm fine with
keep
it. Thank you
keep
so
the
much.
application coming. I
Yeah,
certainly encourage you to keep staying in touch for sure.
yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right,
Gali
and
has a hand up.
yep.
Sorry again. So
It's
I have
okay.
it's like kind of my last question for Chris. Said he's working with a PhD student. I just wondered, what is the like? Is it through my tax or is it like independently just getting hired by tech, or is it like a collaboration with some other?
It's a casual position. So it's a co-op type of position. So it's not a partnership or a collaboration through Mintax or it's not a research funded position. I know that the student is working with another mining company on the actual PhD research itself. But she's working for us just on a casual basis.
Oh, I understand. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. I think we covered it all. Awesome. Well, time for lunch, I think. Awesome. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll have other campus coffees coming up.